You brought your Bible open to the Gospel of Mark, chapter 5. Mark, chapter 5. In 1859, the year before the Civil War started, there was a tightrope walker named Charles Blondin, and he stretched a cable across the Niagara Gorge, 1,100 feet across the Niagara Gorge. And he announced the day that he was going to walk that tightrope across Niagara Falls. And the crowds came by the thousands to see him walk that tightrope across Niagara Falls. And he, first journey across, he went across with a balance pole, and everything went perfectly. Crowds cheered. They thought it was the greatest death-defying feat they had ever seen. And so the next weekend, he was going to do it again. He kept having to come up with something new to keep the crowds excited. So one time, he made over 300 crossings. One time, he packed a stove in a backpack and went to the middle of the cable and sat down and cooked an omelet on a high wire, and then lowered it by a rope down to the boat and made it a mist so that somebody could eat it on high wire. It's the most amazing thing. This guy was stupendous. The crowds came from all over New England to Niagara Falls to watch this guy go back and forth across that tightrope. Nobody had ever seen anything like it. He took a table and chairs out on his back on the tightrope and set the table on the tightrope and was placing the chairs. He was going to sit down on a chair on that cable in the middle of Niagara Falls. And before he could get fully seated, the chair fell. But he caught himself, and the crowds went wild. It was so scary and so unbelievable, and he was so good at it. The crowds were just amazed. He took a wheelbarrow. This is a true story, by the way. This is not a preacher story. I can show you the pictures on the internet. He took a wheelbarrow and pushed that wheelbarrow across Niagara Falls on a tightrope and turned around and brought it back. And then he said, put a 100-pound sack of potatoes in the wheelbarrow. And he pushed that wheelbarrow with a 100-pound sack of potatoes in it all the way across Niagara Falls on a cable, and then all the way back. And the crowds cheered, and he asked them, did you think I could do it? They said, yes! We knew you could do it. And he said, you think I could take a full-grown live man across this cable on the wheelbarrow? And the crowds went berserk. Yes! We know you can do that. He said, who would volunteer? And the crowd went deathly silent. Yeah, we believe in you, but we ain't getting in that wheelbarrow. We believe, but well, in the gospel, there are stories where Jesus asked people figuratively to get in the wheelbarrow. Will you believe in me when it really matters? Will you jump in with both feet when there's no retreat? It's either believe or fail. Will you trust me? Two of those stories are here in the passage we're going to read today. Mark chapter 5, verse 21. Now when Jesus had crossed over again by boat to the other side, a great multitude gathered to him. He was by the sea. And behold, one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Dierks by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet and begged him earnestly, saying, my little daughter lies at the point of death. Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she will live. So Jesus went with him. A great multitude followed him and thronged him. Jairus was a ruler of the synagogue. That would be equivalent to being an elder in the church. The only thing was, in every little village there was only one synagogue. He was a man of great position and respect, a godly man. And it wouldn't be very many chapters further in the gospel when rulers of the synagogue were going to start putting people out of the synagogue if they confessed they believed in Jesus. People that believed in Jesus were not acceptable in many synagogues. And here comes a ruler of the synagogue, throws himself at Jesus' feet and says, "Master, my little daughter is about to die. Come lay hands on her and she will get well." In desperation, he believed. And he risked it all. He said, "Let me in the wheelbarrow. I believe that you can heal my daughter. She's dying. And I don't care what people in the village say. And I don't care what they say at the next synagogue rulers meeting. My daughter is dying, and you're the only one that can help. Please come to my house." And Jesus went. Faith is often born out of desperation. When we're in a situation that is completely out of our control and we desperately want God to do something, we're willing to take a leap of faith, knowing that He is God and knowing that He is able to help. We ask Him, "God, intervene for me. I believe in you and I believe you can." And if those sparks of faith that happen in moments of desperation become a flame and continue to burn, then they are real faith. I've mentioned several times before that my father was a heavy drinker. He never claimed he was an alcoholic, but he was a heavy drinker. My older sister was in the hospital giving birth to her son, first grandchild. And the doctors came in and said, "The child is spina bifida and probably will not live through the night. Probably will die within the hour." And for the first time in my life, I saw my father pray. He wept and he prayed. He said, "God, if you'll let this child live, I'll stop drinking. I'll never drink again as long as I live." The boy's 39 now. He hadn't had an easy life. He's had more than 20 surgeries. But he graduated from high school. He earned his Eagle Scout. He is self-sufficient, lives in his own home, and is able to drive a car, and has had a full life. My dad kept his promise, by the way, for 3 years. For 3 years, my dad didn't take a cigarette. A man who had drunk whiskey every day of his life from the time he was about 12 years old. My dad, for 3 years, kept his promise. Started going to church. Joined the church that he was attending. I was almost floored by this. When he was baptized into that church, they asked him for his tax returns and his Visa card number. And they debited his Visa card for 10% of his net income on a weekly basis. I almost fainted. First, I almost fainted because I couldn't believe anybody would have the audacity to ask for that. Second, I couldn't believe my dad would allow it. For 3 years, he did his best to keep his promise to God. Desperation. And the spark began to burn, and he began to believe, and he began to repent. Something happened. I don't know what caused him to go back on his promise. When he went back on his promise, Dad never had another sober day. He was drunk every day from then on until he died. Promises made with God are not to be taken lightly. They're not to be taken lightly. This ruler, Dierks in the story, he laid it on the line. I know that if you will lay hands on her, she should be made well. Will you believe when the situation is desperate? My prayer for you and for everyone is that you will never be in a position in life when you're that desperate. I pray you never get there. But my question is, if, God forbid, if you're desperate, will you turn to Jesus? Verse 25. Now a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years and had suffered many things from many physicians. She spent all that she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd. Think about it a minute. She has had a flow of blood, a menstrual flow, for 12 years. For 12 years, she has been considered unclean by those who keep the law of Moses. That is, her husband was not allowed to touch her because she is unclean. If someone accidentally touches her in the marketplace, they become unclean and have to go home and wash their clothes and take a bath. She has not been allowed in the court of the temple for 12 years. She could not celebrate Passover. She could not celebrate Pentecost. She could not join the sacrifice on the Day of Atonement. In our culture, it would be like saying you're not allowed to eat Thanksgiving dinner with your family. You can't open presents around the Christmas tree, and no New Year's Eve celebration for you. No 4th of July celebration because you're unclean. Not to mention the physical, the emotional. The emotional pain of this would be pretty bad, but then the physical disability, the constant exhaustion and pain, the struggle with this for 12 years. She went to the doctors. They couldn't help her. She spent all the money she had. They couldn't help her. She just got worse. She said, verse 28, if only I may touch his clothes, I'll be made well. Now you can imagine if she would have ever mentioned this plan to anyone in her family, what they would say. Oh, you've got to be kidding. You think you can just touch his clothes and everything? Every doctor in the land, nobody's been able to cure you. And if you touch him, he's going to be unclean. You can't do that. She believed when no one else had hope. But she was the only one who believed it would make a difference. She went to the crowd and she got close to Jesus and said, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made well. Verse 29, immediately the fountain of her blood was dried up. And she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. Just like that. Jesus, immediately, knowing in himself that power had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" But his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging you, and yet you say, 'Who touched me?'" Crowd everywhere, thronging all around him. He felt the power leave him when the healing took place. He looked around to see her who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. She laid it on the line. "Jesus, I believe. I believe that if I could just touch the hem of your garment, that I'd be made well. And I'm the one who touched you. And it worked. I felt in my body an immediate healing." What's Jesus going to say? He could have said, "Woman, you're unclean. How dare you touch me?" She didn't know what he was going to say. She just knew that he was the only hope, and that she didn't have any other hope, and that none of the doctors had any hope, and that no one in her family had any hope. She believed. And she touched the hem of his garment. And she was made well. And Jesus said to her, verse 34, I love this, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." Daughter, not woman. Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. That's faith. Verse 35, while he was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house who said, "Your daughter's dead. Why trouble the teacher any further?" And as soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not be afraid. Only believe." And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. Then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw a tumult, and those who wept and wailed loudly. They had a custom, by the way, when someone died, there were mourners in every village. When someone died, they would show up to cry and to mourn, to wail, to show that there was sadness in the house, and they got paid by being fed. I mean, the professional mourner just went from funeral to funeral, eating at the funeral meal. That's what they did. They were wailers, mourners, and criers. They showed up when someone was dying. A way to show respect. They were there, mourning and wailing loudly, weeping. Verse 39, when he came in, he said to them, "Why make this commotion and weep? The child's not dead, but sleeping." And they ridiculed him. But when he had put them all outside, they ridiculed him. They're professional mourners, and they're making fun of the Prince of Life. When he put them all outside, he took the father and the mother of the child and those who were with him, and entered where the child was laying. And he took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha Kumi," which is translated, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And immediately the girl rose and walked. She was 12 years old. And they were overcome with great amazement. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it, and said to him, she should be given something to eat. 12 years old. Father, desperate. Desperate. Could he believe that Jesus had that much power to raise the dead? Could he believe that? Everybody else ridiculed the very idea of it. What do you mean she's not dead? We're professional mourners. We cry for a living. We know when people are dead. What do you mean she's not dead? She was dead. Jesus is more powerful than death. Can you believe when other people ridicule your faith? Standing beside a tomb, listening to a preacher say, this is a resting place, but it's not the final resting place. For there is a day coming when all who are in the tomb shall hear the voice of Jesus and come forth. They that have done evil under a resurrection of judgment, and they that have done good under a resurrection of life. And this is not the final chapter of this story, for Jesus is in control of death. And the last enemy that will be put to rest is death. For Jesus someday will raise this one that I love from the tomb. We will see them again on judgment. The world hears those words and laughs. You believe in Resurrection Day? Yes, I do. It gives you some comfort? Yes, it does. Like Job said, shall I live again after I die? All the days of my sojourn shall I hope. If I can just believe that death is not the end of it, if I can just believe that the promises really are true, that Jesus really is Lord, that it really is going to raise us from the dead, that there really is going to be a judgment day, and there really is a place called heaven, if I can just believe that, I can make it through this. And the world giggles at us. They can laugh all they want. Because I'm here to tell you, my Lord is more powerful than the grave. Amen, church. My Lord is more powerful than the grave. Can you believe, even when others ridicule you or believe you, then you can be his disciple. Charles Blondin never got anyone to crawl in the river. Nobody would do it. But after several hundred crossings, the crowds got tired of it. The novelty wore off. He couldn't think of a new gimmick, and money quit rolling in. And so he convinced his manager, Mr. Cochran. He convinced Mr. Cochran to ride piggyback on his back on that wire across Niagara Falls. One time. There's a photograph of it on the internet. And these are the instructions. He said, be no longer Cochran. You must become Blondin. When I sway, you sway. Don't try to balance yourself, or we'll both fall to our death. And he climbed up on Charles Blondin's back. Blondin walked across that cable, across Niagara Falls. He turned around and walked back. Jesus says, surrender your will to mine. Believe that I am the Christ, the Son of the living God. Believe that I died on the cross for you, that God raised me from the dead. Bet your eternity on the truth of the gospel. Turn away from the wickedness of the world. Be buried with me in baptism, having confessed publicly that you believe I am the Christ, the Son of the living God. Demonstrate your faith by your obedience. Be buried with me in baptism and rise up to walk in a brand new life. And don't be yourself anymore. Let me live in you. Obey my commands. Live for me. Walk in the kingdom and eternal life will be yours. Anybody willing to climb in? Anybody willing to say, I believe Jesus Christ is the Son of God? Be baptized for the forgiveness of your sins. If you're ready for that this morning, we ask you to come forward right now.